Hi, this is Arkham. I'm an investor in Columbus Stock Exchange, and I consider myself to be a whitelist investor. It's a set of investors, a growing set of investors who consider themselves to be investing in shares which are in compliance with Islamic law or Islamic belief system. Uh, so I've been thinking of putting out this video for quite some time to make us visible and to say that we are also here in the market, and also uh, to give an understanding for the general investors that there is a new segment of investors. Having a better understanding about this segment will help you make better decisions, because I always believe uh, the share which performs the best is the share for which almost all the investors with a short term, long term, Sharia compliant, non compliant people can get behind. More demand, higher the price. It's simple, basic economics, right? So, on that regard, thought of doing a podcast and to give an introduction. What is whitelist investment? Why there's a sudden increase in the number increase in whitelist investors interest in Columbus Stock Exchange, and what these whitelist investors could bring into the market for the greater good of the market. Okay, who are whitelist investors? Obvious, I said Sharia compliant. Mostly they'll be Muslim guys who believe that they should make all their business decisions, including investment decisions, according to Sharia compliance. That means haram, halal. You would have heard, we don't eat pork, we don't drink liquor, X, Y, Z. It is prohibited. It is halal. Similarly, it is applicable for all avenue of our life. So on that regard, it is equally applicable for our investment decision as well. So they will look into business opportunity of companies which are they will give their top priority to companies which are involved in clear halal business, like the companies which are generating its revenue from Islamically permitted mode of business, like selling a halal item, clothing. There are a lot of Muslim guys are involved in business, so you all know, we do business, so we are into almost all avenues. So those kind of acceptable businesses for Muslims. Then, as you know, that is one criteria. Then the interest element plays a massive part as well. So when they make a decision, they consider, number one, how far this company is involved in Sharia compliant business manner, or they how far they manage to make their money from Islamically considered Islamically permitted revenue stream, and whether they are involved in other haram activities, like getting involved in interest is considered to be prohibited in Islam. That is a small introduction about who these people are, and this introduction alone might not give you a deeper understanding what is whitelist, what are the criteria. Then I'll go to the second phase, and that is one of the most important phase. Uh, all of a sudden, there is a sudden increase in this new segment. There's this talk of the town called whitelist investors. Where were these people? CSE is there from 1980s or whatever the age. Okay, from where these people are coming from. To begin with, many Muslims, including myself, we all had a very reserved thought about or opinion about investing in share market. Many Muslims, before the revival or arrival of Islamic financing, like banks like Amana, right? Many people thought uh, Muslims, share market and all are quite haram thing. It's more like gambling. most of the companies, like Sri Lankan, if you take Sri Lankan history, the companies which were dominating the park, like distilleries, banks, hospitality. Hospitality is not merely a wrong business, but food and beverage makes a big contribution to their revenue. As you know, beverage means liquor. So liquor is haram for Muslims. So if I can't run a bar or liquor store, technically I can't invest in a business which sells liquor as well. That is according to Islamic law. So to be a faithful guy, or at least to act like a faithful guy, you have to stay away from that. So people have that conventional thought process. Of course, that is due to lack of financial literacy. Of course, about 20 years back, the concept of Islamic financing was at its infantry, I would say, infant level. So, so it started emerging. So, with that, lots of Muslims started thinking, okay, fine, we too now have more investment opportunity. Before the arrival of Amana Bank, if you take an average Sri Lankan guy, average Sri Lankan Muslim guy, no matter how big of a businessman he or she is, uh, you would have hardly seen them having a saving account. We Many Muslims normally used to have current accounts because they run businesses for that sake of they have to have for the sake of transactional purposes. They used to have current bank accounts. We rarely have fixed deposit. I have never had a fixed deposit till my age of 20. I have never had a saving account. So we never have it. Even if Muslims have savings account, you can ask your friends who have been working in conventional banks. Muslims will give a letter saying that you shall never add interest to that. It's their belief. We all have. It's a democratic country. We all have the right to uh, have our faith, right? Our beliefs, as long as it doesn't harm others. So So on that sense, that has been the thought process. So with the arrival of Islamic banking, I should say Amana Bank as an investment bank back then, it opened up the Sri Lankan Muslim community's mind as well. Oh, initially, I have to say, when Amana Bank came into being, a lot of Muslims had a skeptical view about Amana Bank and the banking system. They uh, you can never run a Sharia compliant bank in this modern world. That's their reserved thought process. Muslims were very conventional back then. So technology, lack of technology, lack of connectivity, limited resources to learn about their very own religion, XYZ. A difference of opinion within the religion. They get very limited exposure for difference of opinion in their own religion back then. Now they have more exposure. They are learning more about that. Then they eventually, first as a first step, they got into the banking. They started opening. Okay, now we can start savings account. Okay, fine. When I initially opened my first savings account, I in fact started in commercial Islamic unit. When I got my first profit share, I was like, is it halal or not? Because for us, we were never used to that. We were just holding our money in the bank for transactional purposes. We have never used the bank to get a return. So for me, to comprehend, to accept, oh no no no, this is halal, man. You can take this money. It took some time for me. So similarly, it took quite some time for the Muslim community to get on board with Amana Bank. You will be surprised. Still, there are segment within the Muslim community who still believe having a savings account in a bank like Amana or any other Islamic banking units is is not halal. It's complicated. Their understanding is quite complicated. I should say LOLC Al Falah is one of the pioneers, even though it's not a banking segment. It's one of the pioneers who opened up the Islamic financial system in the island as a leasing company. Then eventually Amana came in, yeah. So now it's a journey. They have come to this level. Now they have come to the investment banking thing. Uh, Now they have learned that we have more options. We don't have to put up shop, or we don't have to limit our investment opportunity or investment methodologies to putting our money into an asset or fixed asset. We have more options right now. So Amana Bank and Islamic banking sector helped open this mind up. Then, of course, Muslims started, getting involved, started learning more about share market, the digitalization of share market. Of course, that too have played a massive part. You don't have to come into trading flow now; you can do it anywhere. So, Muslims started learning about this segment more and more on this. On top of that, you shouldn't take me wrongly. Yeah, when we talk about Colombo Stock Exchange or international market or business, sociopolitics is part and parcel of this. So you can't omit political developments, socio-political events, and you can't you can never get an understanding why a market is performing, or why a particular industry is performing or not. And another important development happened simultaneously while Islamic banking sector was establishing itself within Sri Lanka, and while it is breaking the stereotype uh, mindset within the Sri Lankan Muslim community, another important development took place. That is, of course, after 2009, in post-war Sri Lanka, of course, post-war Sri Lanka, the Colombo Stock Exchange started seeing a rapid growth, understandably. Lots of us, even though Muslims did not follow the market that well, or even though many Muslims had a reserved opinion about Colombo Stock Exchange and involving Colombo market, people always felt that the index reflected the confidence of the domestic and international investors, the level of confidence that the domestic and international investors have about Sri Lanka. So we all followed up. We all were following on that. So the market was performing. Of course, we Muslims are quite entrepreneurial, and when you see an opportunity, okay, fine, come on, man. There is something growing. We have to be part of that. Then lots of progressive and risk assertive, the pro risk that risk friendly Muslims got into the market, and they started investing uh, investing in the market in post war Sri Lanka. So simultaneously, so one pillar, Islamic banking sector, was evolving, performing, establishing itself, and breaking stereotype, and giving an understanding to the local Muslim community. You can have savings account, you can have other investment model. You don't have to run your own business. You don't have to look at your own business. You can invest your money, and you can get a decent return. It is acceptable. Then you won't get interest, but you will get a profit share. Then the post-war Sri Lanka, the capital market started reviving rapidly. It started performing like never before. So understandably, we had a old 30-year long war, so everyone had a hope whether the market was actually performing back then or not. We all had to believe that it was performing, right? We were beaten for past 30 years due to a war. We were tied up. Uh, we were held back as a country. So, of course, on top of that, a very important political and socio-economic development started taking place. You shouldn't you shouldn't take it in a very wrong way. But to understand the market, you have to understand politics, socio-economical factors. Without understanding or accepting that, having a very thin skin, you you shall never be able to understand the market. As we know, in post-war Sri Lanka, lots of anti-Muslim hatred started popping up, from 2011 itself. So, who did that? They asked to boycott Muslim businesses. They asked not to sell properties to Muslims. X, Y, Z. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just analyzing the market as an analysis. What happened? So that reality was happening. Then eventually the riot in Dargah town, happened. Then there was another riot in Digan in somewhere in 2017. It it subconsciously made Muslim community of Sri Lanka to think in a different pattern. For example, Muslims, what they do is they will engage in business or they will go abroad. Uh, their thinking pattern is quite simple. You earn, you buy a property, you build something. We don't put our money in EPF, ETF, because riba, the interest is getting involved. We don't have pension system, right? Like we don't have insurance, so we too should have some way of investing. So the only known way for most of the Muslims, whether they were doing a business in Sri Lanka, whether they were working, whether they were working abroad, it's like save your money, buy a piece of land. You might get a capital gain by selling that land, or you can put up a house, or you can put up a building, you can rent it out. Simple thing. But but the sentiment, like that typical sentiment of anti-Muslim sentiment, like boycott Muslim shops, and the actual riot of burning down properties. We are living in a country, we all know what happened in Black July, right? uh, I'm a Sri Lankan. We all are Sri Lankans. We have to start accepting facts, right? We have had a very bad history. So what our Tamil people had to do. A lot of people left the country. They lacked the confidence back then, so they sold the property for a cheaper rate. At that time, that is one of the reason I would say, uh, even back then, the Tamil population started getting involved more in Colombo Stock Exchange, because you can't burn down a listed company, right? Simply because a Muslim or a Tamil or a Sinhala is holding on to that property, right? The haters or these races cannot go and burn down a company, a listed company, simply because uh, the people whom they are hating are holding on to that company in shares, right? Maybe the majority shareholders or minority shareholders, in any of the ways. So of course, Muslims have to think otherwise. So they thought, it's a wonderful way, right? You don't have to hold on to properties. These guys will come and burn the thing out. So what are the other options? Yo, it seems like Colombo Stock Exchange is halal. If I put my money there, let me say I have 10 million, instead of buying a property and worrying with in they will burn this property down in the next right or not, whether that property will become a target in a hate campaign, best to put it into the market. So if you analyze the pattern, you would have seen a drastic change in the number of Muslim folks who actively got involved in Colombo Stock Exchange, especially after the 2017 or 18 March riots in in Kandy. Uh, by the way, you shouldn't talk. I'm a Muslim guy. You shouldn't talk. You shouldn't think why this guy is talking about this. Of course, you cannot understand the market without understanding the market forces. You cannot understand the market forces properly why a market force is behaving in a certain way. So we have to, we all have to accept the facts, right? So you can't have that thin skin and be a very good investor. So these are hard truth. We have to talk about this. I'm not. It's not a political or anything. It's a pure analysis of the market. Why market is performing the way it is performing. Simple as that. So 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 a lot of people started involving in the market. Again, if I had to put it in the right way, Islamic banking, Islamic Sharia compliant banks' evolvement had played a massive role in breaking the stereotype of Muslim community. Then, of course, post-war Sri Lankan, post-war Colombo Stock Exchange performance, and of course, the anti-Muslim hate campaign have paid a massive part. For example, if you go down to a Muslim chap and ask who is currently involved in the market, whether this had made the anti-Muslim campaign have played a part in the addition, even they will not know. They would have these things have happened subconsciously, to be very honest. Okay, so as you know, a lot of Muslim young men, they migrate to foreign countries. Minorities of this country, they normally migrate to abroad. You rarely see young men working in this country, right? They go out. So the best way to invest, you have to invest. You can't buy a property with 1,000 riyals, right? You can't buy a property with 1,000 pounds. You need some money. So with tiny little money, what you can do, instead of uh, going into the C2 and all the stuff, better to buy shares one by one. So all these factors played in. So this is how the, these are these are the actual reason why there are more Muslim investors in the market. And of course, and of course, and the final most important reason is the world has changed after COVID. A lot of people are talking, even if you start the Instagram, even if you open up Instagram, let me say, people are talking about wealth building, crypto, blah, blah, blah. Surround yourself with successful people, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. It has changed the mindset of an entire generation, be it Muslims, non-Muslims, Tamils, Sinhalese, Catholics, irrespective of your background, it has changed everyone's mindset. Okay, but the funny part is, for Muslims, crypto is prohibited, still considered to be prohibited. Islamic finance is an asset-backed finance. No, you can't run. One of the main criteria in Sharia compliant investment is you can't drive a market by speculation. You can't create wealth by wealth should be created uh, after creating a value. Value should generate wealth. You can't create what do you call wealth by a piece of speculation. So technically, if you take crypto, there's no actual basis, right? So including as per actual Sharia compliant, actual Islamic college, theologies, crypto is prohibited. So the world is moving. Uh, just now, the Muslim community has come to 21st century, and they have started accepting the fact that Islamic banking Islam Sharia compliant bank could operate within the modern financial system. And they have come into terms that now they have come into terms. They can have savings account, they can have fixed deposits in a Sharia compliant manner. Now they have come into the level that they can invest in share market as well. Crypto and all are actually not Sharia compliant. It will never be will ever never become a Sharia compliant thing. Forex trading, that is considered, even though a lot of Muslim might be involving in forex trading, legally or illegally. I know I want to keep myself safe, so I'm not trying to get into trouble. But if you ask every faithful guy, they will say selling currency is not halal. You can't sell money and make money. You have to create some wealth. You have to create some value. You can't just sell you can't sell the air and make money. You have to create some value. There should be a value. So you will understand why interest is prohibited in Islam. One of the fundamental reasons why interest is prohibited, that you know you you can't create artificial money. So when you create artificial money, it creates a lot of disputes. Vanessa, you know the difference between the wealth and the poor become drastic. It plays an eventual part. The similar theology is applied here. So you can't create value by speculation. You can't do it. So the point is, the interesting part, if you are a non-whitelist investor, what you have to understand is, yes, the Muslims finally have started accepting the fact that they can invest in non-conventional matters. That is like, other than, investing in real assets, they can invest in commodities as well. But the Muslims doesn't have the liberty to invest in all the investment options that is widely open for all of you guys. It's like, even if I want to invest in, even if I have a lot of interest, I can't go out and invest. So I have to limit myself. So currently I'm limiting myself to CSE. And the best part is, even within CMC, I am limiting myself into a particular set of shares. So if you can understand where I am limiting myself, so you can understand, oh, this guy will most probably invest in this, right? So it makes more commercial sense in having an eye on that. Do you get it? So that is very important. So we can't go out. We can't go into forex. There are Muslim guys who are promoting crypto and all. They are Islamic financial literacy level is very poor. They have to understand why interest is prohibited at first place, and interest is considered to be one of the biggest sins in Islam. Islam treats a lot of drinking liquor and all of considered to be very big sin in Islam, but involving in interest is considered to be much worse kind of a sin than anything else. So they don't understand it. Simply, if you are a Muslim and if you are involving in a Sharia compliant business, so a transaction, you can't cheat and earn money. You should create value and make money. Even when you are selling a product, you can't go for higher margin. You can't speculate. You have to say the fact. So, crypto, how does that run? It runs purely based on speculation. So, one of the important notes, as a whitelist investor, I cannot involve in speculative shares as well. So these are longer thing. Maybe it is everything is jamming up right now. I'm giving you more information in one video, so we will eventually have multiple videos. But it's like it's not a pre-planned video, so we will eventually release multiple videos and making you understand what are these things. So I'm trying to give you a holistic understanding. If you're a non-whitelist investor, I would quite easily say, have an eye on these guys. Let me say, in Colombo Stock Exchange, if there are thousands of companies, for an example, take me. I can't invest in all the banks, right? You will know in which bank, whether that bank is performing or not. I have no other option, right? Similarly, there is an introduction why more whitelist investors are getting involved. So we have seen two phases, and the third phase, it's a holistic video. You have to understand. Third phase is, as I touched in my second point, second phase, understanding about whitelisters is very important for non-whitelist investors. In simple terms, market performs or a particular counter performs very well. Oh, I'm a very democratic guy. That's what we believe, that Sri Lanka should always be an inclusive place. We should make everyone feel welcomed in this country. So when I feel welcomed in this country, I will start contributing more, right? When all Sri Lankans, be it Muslims or non-Muslims, Sinhalese, Tamils, Catholics, we all contribute to a particular exercise, we succeed, right? So whenever Colombo Stock Exchange becomes more inclusive, that means more number of people, right? More number of people, the market will grow. Similarly, as you know, Muslims cannot invest in all the companies. So they will be quite selective. So in the past recent run, I don't want to mention, one of the least leading free conglomerate did very well. Share price skyrocketed because all of us were behind that counter. That means I can invest, you can invest. So having an understanding about that will make you a better investor, will make you gain more money than a whitelist investor. And there's another important criteria in whitelist investment, that you can't be a day trading is considered to be slightly prohibited in Islam. To be very honest, as I earlier said, you have to create some value, man. You can't make money out of speculation. If let me say that I'm purchasing an Amana Bank share this morning, for example. Let me say I'm promoting that share, excuse me, that X Bank's share. It may be Sharia compliant. I just purchased this morning and I'm dumping it in this evening. I can't do that. It considered to be like a gambling thing. You have to make a wise investment decision. So naturally, whitelist investors are more long-term investors. You have to be a long-term guy. You are not in a speculative ganna, you can't be that guy. Yes, you might be making money out of that, but that money cannot be considered to be very halal thing in no? the Because in our faith we believe we can cheat the outside world, but God knows our actual intention, right? We believe in that. So that is one of the fundamental essential criteria of Islamic finance. That's now it goes with intention. You can't cheat God, right? If you believe in God, uh, believing in God is your right. If you claim to believe in God, right? If you claim to believe in God, you have to understand the mightiness of the God, right? Mightiness of God. You can cheat people, you can manipulate people, but you can't manipulate God, right? You can't play with God. If you are not doing a particular thing for sake of God, you can't undone the banning. So that fundamental understanding should be there. So we are naturally long-term players. So that means when these guys are involved, those counters become way more sustainable as well. You can have more faith in that. I'm not promoting that you shall invest in the counters which whitelisters are investing. If I happen to be a non-whitelister, if I'm here to make money, I will definitely have an eye on these guys. I will try to understand what is driving these people to make these decisions. What is driving these people to make buy these shares? What is making these people not to buy these shares? Whether their quarterly performance is extraordinary, XY, and for example, take the banks. performance is extraordinary, but you can't do that. As a Muslim guy, I can't do that. According to faith, my belief system. Um, so having that understanding will make you a wiser, a better decision maker. And so that's what I say. We all have to come together. Not to think that these whitelisters are trying to promote themselves. No, try to understand. Try to understand. As I said, back when the riot took place back then in 80s, you would have seen a lot of our Tamil brothers got involved in the market. It's an actual fact. It is a much safer option, right? I'm not saying these are not political things. When you see a bad experience like that, when you see that people who carried a similar name to you get beaten up in the road during a particular unfortunate incident, when the places owned by people like you get burned down, people naturally start thinking for a much safer option, right? So understanding about that is not not giving yourself into an agenda or something. It's making you a very wise decision maker. So understand that part. That is very, very important. uh, so having that understanding is super, super important. Then as a final phase, what I personally believe, this is a personal, I'm a person who believe in inclusiveness. More people, more growth. We shall never segregate anyone. For example, even though I'm not a speculative investor, if you are a speculative kind of a guy, if you are a day trader, I want you as well. I will never exclude you. I want you to be in the market. More people, more diversity, more diverse thinking pattern, more diverse investment ideologies should come into the market. Should come into the market. That should be welcomed. On top of that, I forgot another very important point. As you know, Muslims, we don't borrow loans. So many of the whitelist investors, they invest with their own money. They don't go for margin trading. So it's like, margin calls are very less. So the point is, if you are a non-whitelist investors, it seems to be a safe option, bro. Whether these guys are saying that, whether these guys are actually following the whitelist principle, it seems like a very safe option. As they claim, as whitelisters claim, if this is so that understanding, so we don't do it. I have to, own money goes in. That's it. Be it small or big, irrespective of the size of our investment. So so that is another very good important lesson. The 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 counters which is popular among whitelisters, I would say, is could be one of the safest options in the longer run. Yes, I know a lot of whitelisters who claim to be whitelisters. When they get into market, they behave like non-whitelisters. They act like speculators. They buy it tomorrow, they dump it tomorrow. They buy it today, they dump it tomorrow. I'm not saying that is right or wrong. It's their own choice. It's own choice. According to Sri Lankan law, you can do it. But as Islamic faith, I think it is not acceptable as far as my understanding is concerned. So the point is, these are very important criteria. So I touched upon few key points, like why whitelist investors are quite important to this market. Why we shall never exclude them. Trying to excluding them will not work in the best interest of the general investors. Whether you like the whitelist investors or not, forget about that. Whether you have an inherent hatred or something, forget about that. Think like a smart investor. We need these guys. So on that regard, my personal belief is, it's a suggestion which I make to the non-whitelist conglomerate of Sri Lanka. For example, as I said earlier, even though you are performing quite well, we 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 are so proud of you, we are so happy for you, yet I can't invest in you because of my faith. Because major portion of your income is coming from which I consider to be haram according to my faith system. So I think CSE should go to a level where we can create a different index for whitelist. Maybe we can further sit with Sri Lankan accounting bodies, because we don't have to always follow Suddhas. We can be the benchmarkers, we can create history, we can be the first initiators. My thought process is, for an example, it's a suggestion, right? Let me say Sri Lankan hospitality segment. For example, Sri Lankan hospitality segment is doing fantastically well. If you take the hospitality segment, the prime business is renting out accommodation. If you look at that from an Islamic perspective, renting your property is not a haram thing. But unfortunately, even though the hospitality segment is performing very well, very minimum amount of Muslims are investing in those counters because of liquor, gambling, all those stuff. So my suggestion is, if you are a C-level guy of those companies, my suggestion is, think wisely. That what if we visionize and try to take the Sri Lankan market to a level where we can attract not only local investors, foreign investors as well, and more Sri Lankan Muslims. Because as I said, Sri Lankan Muslims have very limited investment opportunities, not like non-Muslims. We are limited due to our faith. I can't go and put out my money in bonds, right? TBs, I can't. It might be given massive return, but I can't do it. I can't put my money in the best performing commercial banks these days. What to do? It's a frustrating part, but that's the reality. Because of my faith, I can't do that. Uh, because of my belief system, I believe doing that is wrong. It's my belief. You can have your own view. It's my view. So what I believe is, if we can segregate, for example, your reporting system, for example, let me say we are taking a leading conglomerate of Sri Lanka, which is involved in hospitality business. Let me say, if they can categorize, if they can divide their businesses, food and beverage to a separate sector, and their real asset-based, accommodation business, if they can split their shares into two segments, I think then we can get involvement of Muslim whitelist investors more into those counters. Do you read me? Similarly, as I said, LOLC Alfala is one of the pioneers of Islamic finance in Sri Lanka. But I can't go out and invest in LOLC. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry for those companies, leasing companies, due to my belief system. So what we believe is, now majority of the commercial banks of Sri Lanka are having their Islamic banking units. Uh, so my point is, what if we don't have to wait till the US guys or the UK guys or the IDB, Islamic Development Bank of Jeddah, or the Riyadh Stock Exchange to do this? We can do it. We are capable people, man. We have to have enough faith in ourselves, right? Imagine if we can segregate that. If these commercial banks can list out their Islamic banking units separately, of course, that could would be a subsidiary of your main bank, but these people will be getting involved in this. I think this is the final phase. I mean, as I said, there are whitelisters. They are investing in very limited companies. This is one of the ways where we can make that marriage happen in between the whitelist investors and the non-whitelist companies in the future, where by segregating things, it's an innovative thing. It's a long process, but I think if you are a C-level guy of a top-notch company, forget about your ego. I would say take this. This might put you in a very good situation. If you are a regulator, if you are sitting in SEC, if you are sitting in CSE, if you are a minister who is trying to promote investment, I think this is an area which you can look at. So these are strategic things. So believe this holistic thing video has given you some understanding. Yes, we will eventually go into more videos. We will eventually go into more videos on this. So hope this made you gain some understanding. And thank you for watching. And this is an unplanned, unedited video. So you shall not make any issue about this. If there are any flaws or any mistakes, please forgive me. And this is done out of pure very good faith. And thank you very much. Bye.